There's just something I really enjoy about winter camping. Not sure why, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's just that I enjoy pitting myself against nature in some more severe circumstances. For this trip, I couldn't convince either my wife or my son to go with, so I was on my own. But I wasn't really on my own. I had this insect to keep me company.
That's a big rabbit.
And these tracks showed there were plenty of rabbits around as well. I didn't have a lot of time for this camp out, so I just drove a few miles from my house and hiked about half or 3/4 of a mile back into a canyon. The trail had some use, probably from people cutting Christmas trees. However, once you got off into the powder, you definitely needed the snowshoes. This little clearing looked like a perfect place to set up camp. Because the snow's only about 3 feet deep, today's shelter of choice is going to be a Quinzhee. Basically, you compress the snow at the base, then build a large pile of snow. You've got to make it bigger than you'd think you would ever need. The bane of snow shelters is not being able to sit up while you're getting ready for bed. Once you get a big pile of snow built, then you let it sit for a while. This process is known as sintering. This process makes the snow harder than you would expect. It's the same phenomenon that happens during an avalanche, that basically turns fluffy snow into concrete. You let the pile sit for a while, and then you hollow out a shelter on the inside. It's a pretty simple concept. Alright, we're getting a pretty good pile of snow now. Now once I get it all piled up, then it needs to sinter so that it kind of locks all together. That's what makes it strong. It takes a couple hours for that to happen. So while it's doing that, I'm gonna go find some firewood, do some stuff like that. All right, a little bit of firewood, get us started anyways. Starting a fire under these conditions is nothing like building one at home. Everything's wet and cold. First thing I did was saw up some logs that I could use as a base for my fire. That way it wasn't sitting directly on the snow. Then I gathered a bunch of small dead twigs that had been in the sun at least a little bit of the day. I found some dead chokecherry branches that had some really papery thin bark. That'll be perfect for starting the fire with. Having a log base actually makes it harder to build your teepee fire because you can't stick the little twigs into the ground like I normally do. I was cheating a little bit here, using a lighter rather than a match. I never spend quite enough time on the preparation, so this ended up being a 3 or 4 lighter fire. Still not too bad for these conditions. I was happy to have a fire going before dark. It's amazing how much wood even a small fire can consume. While it was getting started, I headed out and gathered a couple more trees to keep it going at least until bedtime. I get bored pretty easy, so after about an hour or so, I figured that the pile of snow had been sitting long enough, so I started digging out an entrance. One thing I dislike about snow shelters is making a really small entrance hole that forces you to crawl in the snow to dig it out. This starts the night out wet and miserable. Instead, I like to build a big entrance and then fill it in later with hard blocks from inside the Quincy. This little snow saw was a lot less cumbersome than a shovel. It made nice, round, smooth edges. Here I only had a few more shovelfuls, and then the shelter would be finished. You don't let your Quincy center long enough. This is what happens. I was standing right there. It all came down on top of me. So I think that's going to be the end for tonight. Somewhere in here I got a shovel and a camera. So we're going to find those, dig them out, probably cook my foil dinner, kind of regroup from there. A little digging and I had my shovel and camera out, but I still wasn't sure what I was going to do for shelter for the night. Got the fire going. Now we got a good bed of coals. We're just going to toss that foil dinner on there. After the Quincy debacle, I've always had really good luck with them, but not this time. After the Quincy debacle, I'm going to try. I don't like to give up. I may yet. We'll see how the night goes. But I'm going to try a technique that I've had marginal success with. And that's a snow trench with a tarp over the top. Usually it just results in being really cold. I'm going to give it a shot. It may work out, it may not. But something to try anyways. Say tarps are really slick. So they don't like to stay put in snow very much. If you get too much snow on the tarp, then it'll definitely collapse. But like I said, I have had very marginal success with this method, and I suspect this will be about more of the same. Chances are it'll feel just like sleeping in an ice coffin, but who knows? Maybe it'll work better today than in the past. No snow scheduled for tonight, so if there was snow, it definitely wouldn't work, because that's really small tarp. But gonna give her a shot and see what happens. Now I'm pretty wet, so it's time to dry off as much as I can. And my foil knitter needs to be flipped. Don't want to burn that. That's the one redeeming part of the night. Here's the moment of truth. Looks like everything actually turned out pretty good. Only a couple of potatoes ended up very crispy. Sweet success. Of course, I forgot a fork, so I'm having to use the original silverware. Not wife approved. Once dinner was over with, it was time to climb into my ice coffin. The close conditions didn't help with the filming. Give it our best. See what happens. See you in the morning, whenever that may be. Although I tossed and turned quite a bit, I actually got more sleep than I thought I would. So glad I had the opportunity. These nice, cold, rock-hard shoes would be amazing. I had a pretty busy day ahead of me, so I needed to pack up in the dark and head out. Usually this results in me leaving something valuable behind. Things never pack up as neatly on the way out as they did on the way in, but that's okay. It's not too bad of a hike. It's all downhill. I got my snowshoes on and we headed down the trail. Before I went to bed last night, I spent time stacking snow for my Quincy. I'll be back later this year and we'll get it dug out. That should give it plenty of time to sinter. For now, I'm just kind of sad camping's over for a while.